Okay, so here I'm going to go through the filling out of the vacant property refurbishment grant application form. Um, Now, we'll just say as a note, I applied for this as my primary residence, so I don't have the extra information around if you are renting the property, but they are fairly closely the same, but I know there are one or two bits that I won't be covering in this because I didn't have to do it. So this is the form here. It tells you what the form is, conditions for the grant. I'm assuming you're going to have read all of this pretty carefully. So here we have the first kind of interesting page where it talks about types of work covered, and it gives you the different amounts for the different categories. So basically, say 4A here covers external completions, including doors, windows, sills. 15,000 is the max they will give you. So if your doors, windows, etc. comes to 17,000 and you submit that, the max you can get is 15,000. So that is a pretty good guide to just, you know, have for yourselves. Okay, so it talks about the clawback. These are all really important for you to read. I'm not going to go into it really. Again, I'm just going to talk about filling out the form. So here we have the start of the application form. So details of who the grant is for. Obviously, you're putting in your name, your address, air code, etc. So tick the boxes below which describe your circumstances. So applicants who are first-time buyers, applicants who have particular needs, applicants other than one or two who are moving from the current home. So basically, from what I understand, these kind of rate your eligibility, or I suppose your priority in getting it. So first time buyers do have priority over someone who, say, is not a first time buyer. So if any of these are relevant to you, make sure you tick them. Here it talks about providing additional details along with relevant supporting documentation. I didn't put anything in here just because I really didn't have any additional details to fill in. So I left this box at the bottom blank. So the next page here talks about the vacant property, the property you're actually applying for. So you give the address, the air code, how long has the property been vacant in months. Obviously, it needs to be more than 24 months because that is the two-year mark. That's part of the criteria. Will the person be living as their principal private residence? So for me, it was yes. I suppose if you're going renting, you could say no here. Have you provided confirmation that you're a property owner? Now, I actually am in the process of buying. So I ticked yes here, but actually I provided a solicitor's letter that said my client is in the process of buying this property. It's awaiting probate and the sale will go through once that is complete. So I do still need to furnish them with information once my sale goes through. So the next, describe the home. Is the property compliant with local property tax? So to be complete if you're the owner of the property. So if you're not the owner yet, I guess you can, maybe you don't actually know whether it's compliant if you're only in the process of buying it. Maybe that's something you can add in the additional details. I know for a fact that the house is compliant because it was a relative's house and I have paid up the local property tax. So I was able to say yes, and I was able to provide a history of the property tax. So below it says, tick on the following box to indicate what grant you are applying for, the vacant home grant or the derelict grant. So the derelict grant is obviously that top-up grant. It's an extra 20,000. So there's a possible 70,000 available. So you do need to have something like an engineer's report saying that your property is, say, structurally unsound or, whatever basically makes it derelict. So you'll need to send the local authority proof that the local property tax is up to date on the property where the work will be done. This can be a letter from the revenue or profit. So I guess if you do not own the house, it looks like you can get a letter from revenue just saying that it is paid or it's exempt or whatever. So that's that part. So here it talks about filling out the different works. So for me, I got quotes from a number of different people. So I have a main contractor that's doing a lot of the work, and then I have some other people as well. So it can be difficult to fill this in when, for example, for me, I'm getting the windows and doors from a certain person, but I'm also getting some doors, some internal doors that are not from that person. So what I did in order to keep these different categories, I guess, in check, I made a spreadsheet page. So basically, I wrote down all the different work that needs to be done here on the left. I wrote what the quoted amount was, and then I split it up into the different works category. So, for example, if we go back here, we see site clearance, including removal of hazardous materials. So I have something here in terms of demolitions, where I am removing chimney and kitchen wall, removing a wall, removing some other things. So I basically went through all the different work that needs to be done and then classed them into different categories. Then here on the right, I added it up. So for number 1, I did the sum of all the number 1s here. Same for number 2, 3. You'll see here in 4, you have 4, and then you have 4A, 4B, 4C, 4D, 4E. So they are going to be different amounts, and then there's kind of a whole amount that comes under completions. So again, what I did here was I had 4A, 4B, 4C, 4D, 4E, and then over here I just had the total value. So all this really was for my own sanity, to have the amounts checked. And then, so this is actually what I filled out. This is what I sent in with my application form. So you can see here I have, for number 1, I have 8,390. And that corresponds over here with that 8,390, and that's from all these different works. So I did that throughout, and here again you can see completions. I have 17,595, blah blah blah, and that's the sum of all these amounts down here. So I definitely would advise doing something like this, whether it's a spreadsheet or you're just doing it on a piece of paper. It really, for me, I just feel like I would have lost my mind if I was trying to figure this all out, when it came to filling the form. So that was really helpful for me, and I would suggest it for anyone else. And then how much do you think the work will cost, including VAT? And I have it here. So that brings me on to another point. So I'm going to show you some of the quotes that I got here. So this is from the builder that I am working with. So I've kind of cancelled some things out here, obviously, that are kind of will identify personal details about myself, which I don't really want. So this is from the builder, and it has the list of all the different things that need to be done. Now, for me, where I really got the list of all these things was from the pre-purchase survey. I got an engineer to carry out in the house. So say he spotted things like there's woodworm here, so I needed to get a woodworm invoice. The guy who's doing my doors noticed that the porch was not level, so where I'm putting the front door, I actually need to get that leveled. So I put that, I have that there in this quote. No, I didn't mean to do that. so on and so forth. So what I'll just say is, for all the quotes you get, make sure they are quoting with VAT. Make sure they are including VAT in their quotes, because if we go back here, it says how much do you think the work will cost in total, including VAT. So if people are not including VAT in their quotes, then your quotes are not going to be right. Like, you could be asking for significantly less than you actually need. So here's another example of a quote. So this is just for a skip. So I rang up the skip company and I explained to them that I wanted an invoice. I told them the size and they sent this out to me. Another one here is different paint. Oh, sorry, these are doors. And another one here for paint. Now, one thing that I will say as well, which is really important, is that for all of these quotes, make sure that they are including the postcode, if not the full address of the property that you are applying for. Because if it doesn't include your name and the postcode of the house, those quotes may be rejected. So in all of them, I do have the postcode. Now, I have it actually redacted in this, again, just because I don't want to be putting my address out on the internet, but that's something that's important for you to include. Okay, so if I go back to the form here. Okay, so once you've filled all that out, like, this is going to be the last thing really that you're filling out, like, because getting the quotes is probably going to be the most time intensive part of getting this application completed, because obviously you do need to get different trades people in to find these out, and you need to go looking for quotes for yourself. Okay, sorry, I've gone back pages. Okay, so the next part here is applicants should provide a quotation in respect to the works proposed. Can you pay for any extra cost that is not covered by the grant? Now, this is only my opinion, but I absolutely said yes here. And I would say to anyone, make sure you say yes here. Because if you say no, they may say, well, you should not be completing these works because there is no guarantee that you will get paid for the entirety of it, because they may say you are approved for 50,000, but if you come back with a form that says, I spent 50,000 on doors and windows, and they say, well, actually there was only 17,000 allocated for that, so basically you're not getting 50,000, you're getting 17,000. So it is really important that you do say that you can cover it. Now, again, this is just my opinion, but I would be very surprised if you said no to this, if that did not raise a red flag for whatever council you're applying for. Then it talks about smoke alarms, heat alarms, and carbon monoxide detectors. Now, I said there's none of them. There is one, but it's doesn't have a battery, so I basically just said 0. But for being paid, or I'm assuming in the last inspection they will be checking to make sure that you do have at least 2 smoke, heat alarms, and a carbon monoxide detector. The last thing you're doing down here is you're signing it off, and that's kind of it. So the last part it has here is a checklist of what to include with this form. Now, I followed this because I was terrified of forgetting something. So it says, this form completed, no problem. Proof that the property is vacant. Now, I did get a letter from the ESB. Actually, I don't have that out here, so I'm just going to pull it up. Probably do this privately just for a minute while I grab it. Okay, so I'm just showing you here now. It was actually a Word document they sent to me here, But this was from ESB. I contacted them and gave them the MPRN number, which if you can't access that yourself, contact the buyer, contact the seller to make sure you get the MPRN. Where you will get that number is on any old electricity bill. You can also get it, I believe, on the meter, but that's an important number to get because it really does identify your property. So at the top they had the address. I've deleted that just again for privacy, but the address was up here. They said, thank you for your query. Our records indicate the consumption pattern at MPRN. They listed the MPRN number. At address, they listed the address. Indicates low usage over a 2-year period, September 21 to September 23. So basically, they will give you that letter just saying that it indicates low usage. And I am assuming that that correlates to some number that they have, and the council are happy enough to accept that. Now, I know I have heard of some people say that the council did not accept it when they gave this letter, but for me anyway, this was fine. So I know some people have gotten affidavits from either the seller or a neighbour or whatever, just saying that yes, it has been vacant. But as I say, this letter was sufficient for me. Again, so important that they have the full address in this letter. Okay, so the next thing is a quotation in respect of the works proposed. So along with this sheet, you do need to include all of your quotes. So again, that's why it's important to have your name and the address of the property on there, because you do need to include those as well. So proof of ownership or evidence of active negotiations to purchase the property if seeking approval in principle. So again, if you are providing proof of ownership, I know it says earlier in the form, I think it talks about like the title deeds or something like that. For me, again, I got a letter from my solicitors saying that I am in the process of buying the house. So evidence confirming the property is structurally unsound and dangerous if applying for the top-up derelict property grant. So again, that's if you are applying for that extra 20,000, you do need evidence that the property is structurally unsound, and that should be by an engineer, I believe. Any other relevant documentation to support your application, so evidence of planning permission or certificate of exemption. So if you're doing work that requires you to have planning permission, then you do need to send that with your form. Now, one thing that is not in this list, and I did not include it because it was not in this list, is the tax clearance form. So this is the tax clearance form that I got. You can see here, I've just taken out, again, my details, but it just gives your name, your PPS, and an access number, and it just says your tax affairs are in order. So you do need to include that with the form as well. I will really quickly show you. So that's just the last page about what happens next. So that's fine. I will quickly show you again how to get that tax clearance cert. Okay, so the first place you're going to go is revenue.ie, and you're going to look for the tax clearance system. So I'm going to log in here. Again, I'm going to block this just so I can sign in without giving any details. So this is just a page. If you have not yet registered for Revenue Online, you do need to sign up for that. Now I do already have it, so I'm just going to be signing in here. Okay, so once you're on Revenue Online, on my account, you're going to go right down to the bottom to where it says Manage My Record. You're going to click on Tax Clearance. So you can see here that I have one already, so you can see status issued. If you did need to get it, there's an apply button. So you send that to them and then they send it back to you. So I can't show you not having it here because, as I say, I do have it, but it's on this page that there would be an apply button. So again, that is just going to result in you having this form. And that's the last one that you have to include with this. Okay, so that's the last thing I'm going to show you on the application form. Hopefully you will be able to fill that out and get your different details. Again, just a few things that would be helpful. Make a spreadsheet or some kind of written record of all your different quotes and what that is going to look like in terms of this page. While you're waiting for quotes and things, do get things like your tax clearance, do get the local property tax information, do get the vacancy information. So hopefully this helped some of you out, and if you have any questions, please ask them. I will try my best to answer them. Yeah, so best of luck with your form.